When I was a girl, my mother told me stories about her childhood. Sarah was trying to recall her memories. Although she was 91 years old, she spoke energetically. In 1886, my grandfather, Rabbi Abram Oshit, lived in Jerusalem, Palestine, Sarah recalled. He was a Kabbalist, one of the most educated and popular rabbis of Jerusalem and one of the richest people in the country. He and his wife Beetle shaped a wonderful future for their only daughter, Jeannie. Even though they had only one child, which contradicted the tradition of having many children in a Jewish family. His daughter never felt alone. Their neighbors, the Goldenberg family, had 3 girls, Celia, Hannah, and Reva. Reva was the youngest, and she befriended Jeannie. The girls grew up together, thus making the relationship between these 2 families very strong. Sadly, neither Abram's wealth nor influence could get a hold of their peaceful and prosperous life due to the danger that all Jews were facing. Arab terror and the difficult conditions with the Arabs around didn't give them any hope for a stable and safe life. It wasn't a question of whether they had to leave the country or not, but rather when and where they had to go. A story of the fatefully long journeys of these 2 families from Jerusalem to Eastern Europe remained untold. We only know that only Reva and her mother survived in the Goldenberg family. The Arabs raped Celia and Hannah in front of their father's eyes, and then murdered the father and the girls while Reva with her mother were in hiding. In Europe, Jews were allowed to live in small towns that were located far away from big cities. One of these towns, Israelivka, Ukraine, became their new home. Rabbi Oshit managed to save his valuable belongings to provide his family with a better quality of life. Jeannie was a princess in her house. Her mother lavished her with love and care, and a nanny was ready to satisfy all of her whims at any time. Jeannie and Reva were very close friends. They went to the same school, where they shared their secrets and dreams. The most desirable dream was to love and be loved. Jeannie was 18 when she met Gabriel, a red-headed young man with fire in his eyes, temper in his body, and passion for the revolutionary ideas. Gabriel was so different from everything Jeannie knew. She was brought up to only be a wife and a mother to dozens of kids. However, Gabriel's spirit and innovative ideas of equality, freedom, and socialism inspired her young tender soul. Knowing perfectly well that they would never approve it, Jeannie kept her relationship with Gabriel a secret from her parents. Although she trusted her secret to Reva, her only friend, Reva didn't like it at all. In contrast, she was very determined to become a wife of a respectful and well-known man. "I don't think it's a good idea, Jeannie." Reva tried to talk her friend out of being part of it. "But, listen, he is so. It doesn't matter, Jeannie." Reva interrupted her. "This is not how it has to be done. If you love him and he loves you, he has to come to your parents in an appropriate way and ask for your hand." "But you don't understand, Reva. Just listen." "I do, Jeannie. I do understand that you are in love. I hear you, but you don't hear me. You are in love, and you don't see what I see. There are certain rules, and when you go against these rules, you take a risk. I don't understand why you would want to take a risk. Why, if he can't come to your parents as a gentleman, tell them about his intentions, and marry you? I'll try to explain this to you. He has different ideas about the world and life. We don't have to continue to be stubborn and proud. If only you come one time to our meeting and listen to what he is saying, you would change your mind. Jeannie, my life is good, and I don't want to challenge it." Reva stopped the argument. She didn't fall for these ideas and refused to take any part of it. Jeannie didn't follow her best friend's advice. She got involved with the secret meetings of the revolutionary group led by Gabriel. They talked about the poor and hopeless lives of the public and the Tsar's prosperity. They dreamed about a better life for everybody, with peace, happiness, and equality among all genders and religions. Gabriel's speeches sounded so magnificent. Jeannie not only felt loved, but she also was his best friend and supporter. The revolutionary group started to work on the Tsar's assassination plan. They would send an agent to the Tsar's palace to investigate the guard schedule and other palace routines. They studied the palace and drew up its plan. They watched the palace meticulously and made a list of all the people involved at the palace. Then, they contacted some of those people to get more information and help to put their plan in action. However, their plan failed. The agent contacted the wrong people, and was promptly arrested and interrogated. All the members of the group were caught and convicted, including Gabriel and Jeannie. Gabriel was sent to Siberia for 10 years and died soon after, unable to survive the severe Siberian prison conditions. Jeannie was sentenced to 4 years in prison, but was released 2 years early. Being a prisoner was usually highly shameful for a Jewish woman, but Jeannie was an exception to the rule. Her voice was beautiful, clear, and rich, so she started to sing at a local synagogue. The parishioners never missed a chance to listen to her singing, and therefore, the synagogue benefited from her. Soon, Jeannie became very popular. And the fact that she was a former political prisoner gave her a mysterious quality. Her best friend, Riva, had been teaching in a local private school for some time already and had a very good reputation. Jeannie knew several languages, so Riva introduced her to the school principal, and soon, Jeannie became a teacher. The kids and their parents loved her. It looked like Jeannie's life had turned back to normal, but her parents, Abram and Beetle, weren't happy. That wasn't the life they saw for their only daughter. They wanted her to become a wife and a mother, but it wasn't happening. They were trying to find a man for her. But Jeannie was in deep emotional pain from her lost love and had no interest in any other men. However, she once noticed a police officer visiting the synagogue. When she sung, he set his eyes on her and never looked away. He was tall and handsome, with a trim, athletic body, a captivating smile, and enormous self-confidence, giving him the impression that the entire world belonged to him. At first, Jeannie wasn't comfortable with his attention and hid her glance, but she already wanted him. "Who is that guy, Daddy?" she asked Abram. "It's Isaac, the chief police officer, a very respectful man," he replied. "He's single, though he's a little bit too old for you, by 11 years, Abram added. Isaac liked Jeannie for her beautiful voice, attractive face, and popularity, but most of all, he liked her for being the only daughter of the wealthiest man of the town. That was exactly what he wanted. Isaac was popular among women and experienced in dealing with them. He knew Jeannie's story and didn't rush. He watched her persistently, distracting her from her singing performance with his steely, relentless glance, and she trembled in weak thrill, wanting him. Isaac gave her just enough time to fall for him and then appeared on Abram's doorsteps as a proper gentleman. The two men spoke in private for some time, and then he left. "Jeannie, Isaac asked for your hand in marriage," Abram said. "I didn't give him any answer yet. I wanted to talk to you first." He looked at his daughter with hope. He had longed to have a grandchild. Though her quick answer shocked him. "Okay, Daddy," she simply said. "I'll marry him. Do you like him at all?" He was not sure. "Yes, Daddy. I like him a lot," Jeannie replied, filling Abram with a surprised joy. While getting ready for the greatest celebrations of their life, Abram and Beetle invited the entire town to their daughter's wedding. It was the happiest day of their lives. Jeannie was getting married. Riva was delighted to be the bridesmaid and spent her entire time preparing for the wedding. She planned her hairstyle, shoes, and choice of makeup meticulously, and designed a dress that she sewed herself. She spent a lot of time in front of a mirror enjoying her beautiful reflection. She was gorgeous. But the upcoming wedding was not the only reason of her loveliness. She was in love. She'd been secretly seeing Moshe Liba for a couple of months. He was such a joyful young man. He knew all the songs in the world, and sang them so well. Moshe attended military school, which was an honor for a Jewish boy, and his army uniform fitted him well. For Riva, he was a hero, the best of the best. She lived with hope to hear from Moshe the magnificent words, "Marry me." Riva was so distracted with her dreams and constant urge to look for Moshe that the wedding ceremony passed through her presence like a pleasant dream. She awakened from her dreams in a ballroom, when Moshe invited her to dance. She trembled, expecting him to propose. Would he? Riva looked at the just-married couple as they danced, dreaming that someday, and probably very soon, she would wear the same kind of wedding dress. No, I'll be more elegant, she thought. I don't need this kind of wide and puffy gown. I need a plain dress that would make me tall and thin. It will have a high queen collar, narrow on the bottom and wide at the top. I will have a gown below my waist. I'll sew flowers from my right shoulder all the way down to my left. And I would have just one flower on my hat with a short veil. I think that would be enough. Her thoughts were interrupted when she met Isaac's glance. Riva sent him a friendly smile, as one always does to congratulate a person, and looked away. However, she knew that he continued looking at her, while dancing with his bride. What does he want from me? This is so inappropriate, she thought with alarm. Oh my God. Maybe there's something wrong with my appearance. Yes, that's probably what it is. What if Moshe saw it? She panicked. However, she didn't find anything wrong when they passed a mirror during a dance. Isaac kept looking at her every time when his bride was occupied with something else. Riva couldn't understand why he looked at her like that. This kind of glance had to be addressed to his wife only. She was also confused because she liked his attention. Her Moshe was right next to her, and she wouldn't let this feeling bother her. She pulled herself together and just looked away, never returning his glance again. Moshe proposed. Riva's wedding wasn't as big and pompous as Jeannie's, but she felt very confident. She had made the dress and the gown just the way she wanted. And she looked very elegant. Jeannie and Isaac were invited, of course, and Riva felt Isaac's stare on her all the time. She felt uncomfortable but enjoyed the sensation. Prohibited and delicious as it was. It was only natural for any family to start having kids, so, one after the other, with 1 year apart, Jeannie and Isaac had 3 children: Fega, Sarah, and Aaron, and 4 years later, a baby boy, Meir, joined the family. Riva and Moshe also had 4 children, all of them 1 year apart: Samuel, Celia, Hannah, and Simon. Jeannie and Riva enjoyed motherhood as much as they enjoyed each other's company, friendship, and support. However, something happened between the young women. Prior to Jeannie's marriage, Riva always spent a lot of time in Jeannie's house. However, as soon as Isaac moved in, Riva avoided coming, making up different reasons every time. Every time the opportunity emerged, Isaac would touch her hand and pat her shoulder, making it look like a friendly jest. When Riva came to Jeannie's house, Isaac's penetrating glance bothered her. He never improperly spoke to her, but she felt like they had some kind of intimate relationship. Nobody ever noticed anything strange in their relationship. But Riva didn't feel this way and tried to avoid any contact with her friend's husband. In 1914, the news about the Austro-Hungarian Empire's declaration of war on Serbia reached the small town of Israelivka. The Tsar's army's officer, Moshe Liba, was very happy. Riva, I can't wait to go to the war. I'll show these frail Russian officers how courageous and brave an officer should be. I still can't believe that this hateful crook, Perov, got a medal for bravery. He's the biggest coward in the whole world. Oh, honey, you know better than anyone that you won't get any respect or honor from the general. You're a Jew. What do you expect? No, 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 no. I heard this one already. When I went to a military school, the envious neighbors were about to burst. They told me, "What are you doing? You're a Jew." Moshe imitated Riva in a high-pitched voice. And you know what happened? I became an officer and very proud of it. I'm going to prove my devotion to the Tsar. Riva felt her husband's ambition and didn't take offense, though she felt uneasy. Oh, Moshe, I have a very bad feeling about this. What about the children and me? Samuel and Simon need you. Celia and Hannah will also miss you terribly. They all love you so much. And I'll miss you too. I need you near. Honey, there's nothing to worry about. The Germans have no idea how big and strong we are. We'll beat them in the blink of an eye. It won't last too long. I promise. But after, I'll be a hero. Can you imagine how proud our children will be to have their father a hero? The best man ever. Picture this. I'm stepping into the Tsar's special quarters. There are many important people inside. None of them are talking. The general calls my name and I walk on the red carpet toward the Tsar. I get down on my knee and the Tsar pins a medal on me and shakes my hand. I salute the Tsar and everybody flatters me. They look at me and want to be my friend, yet I don't do it for glory. I do it for my Tsar. Riva was listening to her husband, visualizing all these pictures. She saw herself there, in the throne room, in an elegant purple dress, surrounded by her wonderful children. The people noticed how adorable her children were and how graceful and pretty she was. All the women were jealous because their men were looking at her with delight. Shame on me, Riva thought, and drove away her thoughts. She was listening to her husband, trying to memorize his soft, deep voice and handsome face in the quiet moment. Riva had no idea how right she was because it was the last moment of her happy life. This war was going to be long and bloody, and her life was going to become worse every day. And nothing would make it better. Moshe kissed her goodbye, glanced into the mirror one last time, and confidently walked out of the house. Moshe wrote letters to Riva regularly about the battles with Germans. At first, his letter sounded optimistic, but as time went by, she received his letters less often. And none were as optimistic as the first. Riva received monthly compensation for her husband from the Army's committee, but rapid inflation made this compensation smaller every day. The news about a Bolshevik revolution reached Israelivka, but people were unaware of the outcomes they were about to suffer. I can't afford private lessons for my children anymore, she complained to Jeannie. Thank God, I have enough education to teach them myself. It's not the same as a private teacher. You know children. They always listen to strangers more than their own parents. Your situation is terrible. Jeannie agreed. I don't know how you can live without a husband. I feel so bad for you. Riva. But that's not all, Riva continued to complain. I haven't paid my children's nanny for the last 2 months. She stays with us only for food. If she leaves me, I would have to take care of everything myself, and I wouldn't be able to educate my kids the proper way. Oh, Riva, don't worry about it. Please remember, I'm always here for you. Thanks. But the most terrible thing is that I received a letter from Moshe stating that he was transferred to Siberia. It seems like the other end of the world. I really don't like it. Oh dear. Jeannie gasped. The memory of her beloved Gabriel, who was sent to Siberia and died there, rushed through her memory. Why did they send him to Siberia? He wrote he would fight with Japanese. I don't understand any of it. He wrote that he was very unhappy there. That his commander mocked him all the time and threatened to kill him. He wrote that he has to watch his back all the time, Riva cried. I told him that I didn't like it. I didn't want him to go to this war. Why didn't he listen to me? Oh dear. It doesn't matter. He would be forced to go there anyway because he is an officer. What do you expect? Yes, I know. I'm just so desperate. This last letter came to me 3 months ago. I'm so worried. I went to the military committee, but they didn't have any idea of his location. A teardrop fell on Riva's skirt. They said that if he doesn't appear during the next 3 months, they'll cancel the compensation they pay me. What am I going to do? Oh, Riva, things can't get any worse than they are now. I know this war is awful, but I think it's going to get better. The Tsar knows what's going on and is doing something about it. You're not alone, you have your mother and I'm here for you, as well as my entire family. If you need anything, I'll help you. Jeannie didn't believe what she was saying. She knew that there was no reason to think that things were going to get better, but she wanted to cheer up her friend, and thankfully, she did. The two friends hugged, and the tears made them feel better. Just then, Isaac came into the room, wearing his charming smile. He looked fabulous. "Hello ladies," he said. "Hi honey," Jeannie answered back. "What's the matter?" he asked, looking at the hugging friends. Nothing, Riva replied, avoiding eye contact with him. "I'd better go." She wiped away her tears, gently touched her friend's hand, saying goodbye, and headed to the door. Riva was walking down the street, thinking about her problems. Jeannie is probably right. There is no way things can get worse. She tried to comfort herself. On the side of the walkway, there was a group of people standing around a man who was lying on the ground. Riva slowed down. "He's dead, don't touch him," a man said, stepping away from the people. "Maybe he's not dead. Maybe he's just unconscious," a woman replied while bending to get down on a knee. "He's dead. Don't touch him. Maybe he needs help. It could be typhus," the same man replied, walking away. The woman got up quickly and everyone around the body stepped back. They didn't want to get infected. The people left one by one. The farther they were from the dead body, the faster they were walking. Riva stood still, watching them in confusion. How could they leave this man on the ground? What should I do? Do I have to get closer and see if he's alive? What if he really has typhus? Riva stood there for a while, looking at the man, and then turned around and walked away. "Hey, are you okay?" She heard a voice from behind. Someone else decided to help the man who was lying in the middle of the street. She didn't turn around to check it out, but instead walked away faster and faster. Her children were playing outside under Nanny Maria's watch. When Maria saw Riva, she ran toward her. Madam, I just sent a boy for a doctor. Your mother doesn't feel well. She has a severe headache and terrible fever." Riva rushed inside the house to her mother's room. "Ma, what's wrong?" Her mother was lying in bed, coughing terribly. "Don't come close to me, Riva. I'm afraid this is typhus." She glanced at Riva with her watery red eyes. "Oh, no." Riva took a step forward. "I said don't come close. You have children. Think about them." Riva's mother's tone was hoarse. It was very challenging for her to speak. "What should I do? Mama?" Riva cried. "I have no strength, so listen and do what I say." "Yes, Mama. I have something to give you. In the bottom of my drawer, under the clothes, you'll find a small wooden box." Riva opened her mother's drawer and removed the box. She opened it and found two beautiful sparkling stones the size of beans. "Oh, Mama, are they real?" "Yes. They are very real. These diamonds are very unique and are not to be worn. They're for rainy days. Nobody knows about them. Your father didn't even know when he was alive. You're the only other one who owns and knows about these diamonds. Don't trust anyone and hide them in a safe place. They can help you when your life is in danger. Or they can make your situation even worse, so think twice before you use them." "Mama, where did you get them?" "My grandmother gave them to me before she died." "Mama, why didn't you use them to save Daddy and my sisters when the Arabs caught them?" "They weren't searching for diamonds, they were searching for lives." Now, take the stones and get out of my room. Don't forget to wash your hands. Also, Maria touched me. Tell her to clean herself. Her mother ordered in hoarse voice. But, mother, do what I say. Mrs. Goldenberg shouted and coughed terribly. Riva left the room and washed her hands and the stones with soap. Then, she hid the stones in her jewelry box. She was afraid to come into her mother's room. So she sat on a chair and waited for the doctor. The doctor was an old man. For many years, he had been their family doctor, and Riva trusted him. Your mother belongs in the hospital, he said after examining Riva's mother. Can I have an unused soap, please? He asked. Sure, Riva replied. He washed his hands for a very long time, meticulously rubbing every curve. Riva watched the doctor as he scrubbed and soaped his hands. It seemed as if he had already cleaned his hands and there was nothing left to clean, but he continued to soap and scrub endlessly. Riva felt the bad news coming. I want you to be prepared for the worst. The doctor looked into her eyes. It's typhus. I don't think your mother will survive. She has to be isolated from you and your children. If I were you, I would take care of yourself and your children first. You won't be able to help your mother anyway. If you don't want to get sick, if you don't want to die and make your children orphans, then you have to make sure that you wash your hands, clothes, and the doorknob every time somebody touches it. It seems that there is nothing to wash, but trust me, it's there, and it's not washed away as simple as regular dirt. Try to avoid contact with people. If possible, don't go to a market and the synagogue. Try to stay home. I hope you understand. It's very dangerous. I'll call a cart to take your mother to the hospital. The hospital cart came soon after the doctor left. Riva wasn't allowed to come close to her mother to even say goodbye. Everything happened so quickly that Riva could not yet realize her loss. The only thing she understood was that she had to clean, not just every so often, but all the time. Just like how the doctor washed his hands. She didn't think about her mother anymore. There was something more important in her life, cleaning everything to save her children. She and the nanny started to clean. The next morning, the doctor came to Riva again. Riva, I have a very bad news to tell you. Mother? Riva didn't even realize the question she'd just asked. Yes. Riva, I'm sorry. Your mother passed away last night. Be strong, Riva. You have your duty. Think about your children. Riva knew the doctor her entire life and felt like he was a family member. She loved the man, and wanted to hug him and cry on his shoulder, and he wanted to comfort her. He'd known Riva since she was a kid, however, both of them knew that hugs weren't allowed. The doctor stood on the stairs of Riva's house for a couple of moments, then nodded in respect and walked away. The Oshit family took care of Mrs. Goldenberg's funeral. Jeannie didn't leave Riva for the entire week, trying to comfort her. Although Riva behaved very differently, she didn't let anybody touch her kids or herself. The strange behavior and new cleaning obsession surprised Jeannie, and Riva's persistent reminder to wash hands and the doorknob after every visit irritated her. However, she remained a good friend. Considering that Riva was under tremendous stress, and thought that this new habit was Riva's way of dealing with her grief. The week was over, everybody left Riva's house. And only then did she feel her loneliness. There were no letters from Moshe, and no mother to talk with. Though she had little time for grief, she spent more time with her children. Cleaning and washing non-stop. But when the dark night fell, she was lonely and sad. She opened her jewelry box for the first time after her mother's death and found 2 diamonds that her mother left for her. The stones sparkled beautifully in the candlelight. How adorable I would be if I wore them on my ears. She was dreaming. How much do they cost? She tried to estimate the price of the stones. They are probably priceless. She couldn't take her eyes away from these beautiful sparkling diamonds. Riva saw herself in the throne room, with Moshe leading her on the red carpet to the Tsar. All the people around were whispering, "She's so beautiful. Look at those earrings. I wonder how expensive they are. 1 million, 2 million, 3 million. Suddenly, Riva saw her mother in the crowd and rushed to her with a smile. "Mama, do you like how I look? They're not searching for diamonds, they're searching for lives," her mother said in a hoarse voice, pointing to the crowd of people in the throne room. Riva turned around, but the throne room with all those pompous people disappeared. And in its place were those Arabs who chased after her in her childhood. Riva ran again, pulling her children after her. She hid and watched as men whose robes were covered with dust and sand raped her sisters, Celia and Hannah, and then killed them and her father, cutting their throats again. Women with no identity, covered with black veils over their dresses and heads, found them in hiding. They looked at Riva with shameful glances through the holes in the face veils. "Kill ugly Jews! Kill ugly Jews! Kill ugly Jews!" As their hands reached her children, their cruel voices hurt like lashes. "No!" Riva cried, but her voice was not heard. "I told you, these stones are not for fun. They can save your life or kill you," her mother uttered again. Her watery red eyes turned black and her face dissolved into her eyes' darkness. The diamonds transformed into slimy leeches and crawled onto Riva's neck whispering, "Kill ugly Jews! Kill ugly you! Kill ugly Jews! Kill you!" The evil creatures sank their teeth into her neck. "Mama, please help me. Please. I swear I'll never wear them again." Riva woke up. Her head was lying on the table and the collar of her shirt tightened around her neck. For several minutes, she sat there, trying to get herself together. Then, she hid the diamonds, sewing them inside the collar of her black dress. The First World War brought death to battlefields and peaceful towns alike. The terrible typhus epidemic took millions of lives. Death went from one house to another, not knowing pity or mercy. Dead people lay everywhere on the roads, their disfigured faces eaten by stray dogs, cats, and birds. There weren't enough people to investigate the names of the dead bodies, to remove them from streets, or to dig graves for them. So they were all buried together in one large grave. Orphan children filled streets and markets, begging for food. People with gloomy faces rushed from place to place, not knowing what was going to happen to them from one day to the next. After her mother's death, Riva didn't let her children play outside. And it was very hard to keep them locked in the house all day long. She didn't leave the house to visit her friend. She only let the nanny go to the market, but every time she came back, Riva made sure that the nanny washed her clothes and body. Mail was the only communication with the outside world. But there were no letters from her husband. Only newspapers with terrible news about the war, the typhus epidemic, and fights between different political parties. Riva's children were prisoners in their own home. And the window was the only way they could observe the outside world. They often sat there watching people walk by, wishing they could join them, not understanding the danger of their wish. "Celia, look. There's a little boy sleeping on the ground," Simon called to his older sister. Celia and Samuel stopped playing lotto and came to the window. "What's wrong with him?" Samuel asked with distress. "He's naked. And what is that green stuff that is coming out of his butt?" "It's disgusting." "Samuel, he's not sleeping. He's dead," Celia said quietly. Hannah also got up from her chair, where she was reading a book, and came closer to the window. A little about 4-year-old boy was squatting down at the edge of the street. It looked like he was praying his last prayer. Green excrements were discharged from his small bluish body and already attracted a swarm of big black green flies. Riva heard the conversation and approached the window. The sight didn't shock her. She already knew what was going on, but she wanted to protect her children from seeing the horrific truth. "Children, go back to whatever you were doing, please." But it was too late. They already saw it, and it was impossible to take them away from the window. The children discovered reality through their own eyes. In a couple of weeks, Riva had received a notification from the funeral service about her friend Jeannie, who had died due to typhus a week before. The mail had arrived too late. Riva sat on a chair in complete shock. She hadn't communicated to her friend for the last couple of months, knowing that Jeannie was irritated with her cleaning obsession. And now, Jeannie was gone. Riva felt so guilty, lonely, and lost. She dressed in black, took some food in a basket, and went to the O'Shea's house to pay her respects. Jeannie's house was the most beautiful house in the town. Children would often play outside, running and laughing. The windows and doors of the house were usually open, and the voices of happy people had made the house alive. But that day, Jeannie's house was cold and gloomy. All the doors and windows were closed and nobody was outside. Uneasiness filled Riva's heart. She put on her gloves and rang the bell. A nanny opened the door and walked Riva in. The hall mirror was covered with a cloth. Madame Jeannie died. The nanny covered her face with her hands and cried, "So young, so beautiful. Things can't get any worse." Jeannie's voice sounded in Riva's head and her face turned pale. "Madam, you should sit down," the nanny said, reaching to Riva, trying to support her, but Riva moved away, not letting the nanny touch her. "I'm okay, thank you. I would like to see Rabbi Oshit and Mrs. Oshit. They don't feel well, madam." "What do you mean?" "The doctor said that it's typhus." "What are we going to do? Why is God punishing us?" The nanny cried again. "What about Isaac? Is he home?" He was the last person Riva wanted to see. But she had to express her condolences to someone from Jeannie's family. "Yes, he is." The nanny walked her to the living room. Isaac was sitting on an armchair near the fireplace with his eyes closed. 5-year-old Faga and 4-year-old Sarah were playing near him on the floor. Riva put the basket on the table, and he opened his eyes. "Hello, Riva." His voice was soft and tired. "Hello, Isaac." She felt terrible as always, and her cheeks turned red as she made eye contact with him. "I'm sorry. I didn't attend the funeral. The notification came too late and nobody told me about it. I had no idea." Tears began to flow as she spoke. Isaac got up and approached Riva. He took her hand into his. "Good thing I wear gloves," she thought. She wanted to avoid the touch, but felt it would have been too rude. "You don't have to apologize, Riva. It's typhus. People are afraid to come. People are dying by the handful today. Rabbi and Beetle are sick in the hospital. Nobody knows who's next in line to become ill." Riva held her breath as he spoke. Contradicting feelings tore her soul apart. On the one hand, she felt bad for Jeannie and her parents. She felt confused about being alone with her friend's husband and letting him hold her hand. On the other hand, she was afraid to move. It was good to feel his big hand. She had forgotten the last time a man had held her. "The last time I talked to Jeannie, she said that things couldn't get any worse," Riva said with a trembling voice, trying to hide her emotions. But she couldn't cloud her feelings anymore and began to cry. Isaac moved close and hugged her very gently. He didn't say anything. There was nothing to say. It felt so comfortable and safe to be in his arms, and gradually Riva calmed down. "I'm sorry, Isaac. I came here to cheer you up and instead I'm making myself sad." "That's okay, Riva. I'll be fine. And I like how you say my name." He looked at Riva and saw right through her. He knew that she liked his touch, but he wasn't in the mood for a courtship. He needed some time to think about what happened and what he was going to do. Riva moved her glance away at his last comment. "Don't forget us, Riva. Come over when things are better." "I will," she said, turning red. What does he mean? Is it a sign that he wants me, or is he just being polite? She didn't stay longer to find out. and instead ran home. Riva spent the rest of the day washing herself and her clothes. She couldn't take any chances about leaving her kids to die the same way this bluish little boy had died in the street. The next day, Riva found out that Rabbi Oshad and Beetle had died. In spite of the typhus epidemic, a lot of people came to pay their respects to the rabbi and his wife. Riva came too. There were so many people that Riva only had a chance to greet Isaac. He gave her a weak smile, and after that, she didn't see any reason to stay longer and left to wash and clean over and over again.